Do you have too much body fat and not enough muscle? Because if you do, you're probably stuck in one of the most confusing situations in fitness. Nobody ever seems to give like a straight answer as to what you're meant to do first. Do you need a calorie deficit to lose fat? Do you need a calorie surplus to build muscle? Or is it just some weird middle ground? It's exhausting. Here's the good news though. It is way more straightforward than people make it out to be. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to do step by step if you are in this situation, so you can start to make real progress and get out of the skinny fat trenches and build that strong athletic physique that you've always dreamed of. All right, so let's get into it. So here's something most skinny fat guys always get wrong. They think building muscle is the #1 priority. And look, building muscle is obviously important. But when it comes to calories, fat loss needs to be your main priority, especially at the beginning of your journey. The fact you don't have a lot of muscle does tell me a few things. You haven't been to the gym in a while, or ever. You're not training anywhere near hard enough to build muscle. And you don't have a real system or structure in place with your training. But here's what no one ever tells you, right? That's actually your secret weapon. Being detrained or untrained means you have a massive amount of wiggle room to make progress, especially while you're in a calorie deficit. And we know this is possible with novice or detrained lifters. You don't actually need optimal muscle building conditions to build muscle at the start of your journey. There's so much room to improve purely by the fact you haven't really started yet. Think of it like Michelangelo being handed a giant block of marble. He's not starting with a tiny chisel delicately tapping away. He's knocking off big lumps first, getting a rough shape, and then he's going to work with the fine tools. That's exactly where you are right now, and that's a good thing. And here's what that means in practice. Strip the body fat first, and here's why. Fat loss can happen fast, visual changes come quickly, and when you start seeing that body fat melt off, when a shape appears in your shoulder or your biceps are coming through, that early motivation is absolutely priceless, and it's going to keep you in the game. #2 is you can still build muscle even though you're in a calorie deficit. Because you're detrained or untrained, it means that calorie deficit will not stop progress. You're improving on both ends simultaneously. And finally, you're going to learn skills which will serve you forever. Dieting teaches you about food quality, calorie control, and satiety in a way that nothing else will. Those skills will become invaluable when we move into lean gaining phase later, where we'll be attempting to put on purely muscle and not an ounce of fat. My preference is to be aggressive with a calorie deficit here, and it's what I do with my clients. Aim to lose about 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week, which works out at roughly 0.5 to 1 kilogram for most people. To hit that, you're looking at being 500 to 700 calories below maintenance. Give yourself about 8 to 12 weeks, track your metrics, take photos, and do a proper assessment at the end. You might need to do another 8 to 12 week block if you're not lean enough, but only decide once you get there. Eating at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and I will be training really hard, and I'll get to that in a second. But first, I've got a free 4 weeks coaching guide in the description, which maps out the whole thing for you. It will give you your weekly weight loss targets, calories, protein, carbs, fats, steps, weekly targets, the lot. It gives you somewhere to track it, and you will also get a video check-in from me showing you exactly how to read that data. It's completely free, and the link is in the description. But here's the catch. Everything I just said about building muscle in a deficit, it only works if one thing is in place, and most skinny fat guys don't have it. Let me show you what I mean. The biggest fear skinny lads have with losing weight is that they're just going to become like a smaller, skinnier version of themselves. They're afraid people will see they have no muscle. Spoiler alert. They already know you don't have any muscle. You're just going to reveal the truth. And that's okay, because you're about to change that. Research has shown that time and again, you can build muscle in a calorie deficit because food does not stimulate muscle growth. Training does. And if you're relatively untrained, your body can actually build muscle while losing fat because the training stimulus is so novel. So yes, you can actually have your cake and eat it too. Figuratively. But there's one massive problem. Most of you just don't train hard enough to change your physique at all. Training is the only thing which stimulates growth. So if you actually want to stop being skinny fat, there are 3 things you need to understand. The first one is quality. Most coaches immediately scream about progressive overload. I don't. I care more about whether you can actually control the weight. Can you use full range of motion? Can you do controlled eccentrics? Can you actually feel the target muscle working? I really couldn't care less about how much weight you lift and for how many reps. Most skinny fat lads are so obsessed with adding weight to the bar before they even learned how to train properly. So strip back your ego, build the foundations first, because if you jump straight into lifting like an idiot with no strategy, I promise you will get stuck very quickly. I can bench 3 plates, I can do pull-ups with 60 kg attached to me, and I can do dips with 40 kilos hanging off me as well for reps. And I built that strength and I don't ever get injured because I'm always controlling the reps properly instead of throwing the weights around like a lunatic. Now we've got that out of the way, we can actually talk about progressive overload. Progressive overload just means improving over time. More reps, more load, or better execution, one that's often forgotten about. And finally, this is probably the biggest thing which is missing with most people's training: how close you are actually getting to failure. Most people stop the set a second it starts getting uncomfortable. Now personally, I'm not the biggest fan of taking every single set to failure. I'd rather most people leave 1 or 2 in reserve for most sets, because if you go to failure on absolutely everything, your performance can start falling apart as the session goes on. With failure, does have its place too. Sometimes you need to push for that progress. And mentally, there's huge value in learning how to suffer a little bit under hard sets as well. I think failure should be the product of pushing hard, but it shouldn't be the objective of the set. If you focus on quality, progressive overload, and then intensity in that order, and you give yourself enough time, I promise you, you will build muscle in that initial fat loss phase, and you will set yourself up so well for the next phase, which is where the excitement actually starts to build, because this is the phase where you finally break free from the skinny fat tile. And what is that phase, I hear you ask? Okay, so you've gotten lean, you've shedded unwanted body fat, and you've nailed the basics with your lifting. Now the fun actually begins. Think of everything you just did as the ugly duckling phase. This is where the magic starts to come together. Now that you're lean, your body is going to be so much more efficient at partitioning calories and putting them to use, which means now you're in the perfect position to pack on some size. The extra carbs in your system are going to go down like a fat kid on a seesaw. The energy you're going to get from them is going to allow you to really kick on with your intensity in the gym. You might have felt a little fatigued toward the end of your diet. Sessions might have felt a little tough, but now your body is primed and ready to go. Remember them basics I told you to nail in the gym? Because you put your ego to the side and learn how to lift properly, you now have the foundations to really start driving intensity every single week. This is the part where you feel like you're hitting a PB every time you set foot in the gym. Numbers are going up every week. It's basically the Rocky cutscene, but at the end of the scene when he's really good at everything. But there is one caveat to this. We have to do it properly. A lot of people just get fat when they go into a gaining phase. They use it as an excuse to eat whatever they want. But remember what I said earlier, food does not stimulate muscle growth. Your training does. More food does not equal more muscle. The best way to do this gaining phase is in a very mild surplus and to put weight on very slowly. And I'm about to drop a big secret here, and it's going to be kind of disappointing for those of you who are in a rush to do this. You have to give yourselves months and years in this lean gaining phase. Muscle growth is painfully slow, and you have to be in it for the long haul. But the beautiful thing is, by this point, you will actually be enjoying your training, and that's the key. So in terms of numbers, I would look to only gain about 0.25% of your body weight per week, which works out to roughly 0.2 to 0.3 kilograms per week. That is approximately about the amount of muscle you can put on. So if we sit in that mild surplus, we can be rest assured, if we're eating enough protein and training hard enough, that the weight we are gaining is going to be coming majoritively from muscle. Is majoritively a word? We'll stick with majoritively. Do that consistently for a long period of time, and I promise you, you will get out of the skinny fat trenches. Look, this is not complicated. Nobody needs to stay skinny fat. You just need a plan and patience to see it through. So here's the whole thing summed up. Lose the fat first, get lean, see some veins, see some definition, learn how to train properly, and learn how to train hard. Put your ego to the side, because when you finally get into that lean gain phase, you want to make sure you're maximizing every single return you can get from it. And then commit to the lean gaining phase for a long time. Stay in a very small surplus and be incredibly consistent with it. And that is how you get out of the skinny fat trenches forever. My name is Miles O'Connor, and if you enjoyed this video or got any information that you found helpful, I would really appreciate a subscription to this channel. And don't forget about my 4 weeks free coaching guide in the description. It will get you started immediately and put you on the right path. And I will see you on the next one.